Look at the canopy of the tropical rainforests in South Asia. It is a massive, intricate biological engine, but keeping this ecosystem running requires a highly specialized maintenance crew. Enter the Great Hornbill. With an enormous wingspan and a heavy, distinct profile, it navigates the dense upper branches with incredible precision. Ecologists often refer to these birds as the farmers of the forest. Thanks to that massive yellow and orange beak, they can pluck and swallow large, tough fruits that smaller birds cannot handle. They digest the fruit and drop the heavy seeds miles away from the parent tree. The continuous growth and health of these ancient forests relies heavily on this specific bird succeeding, and especially on how they breed. When it's time to lay eggs, the female hornbill finds a natural hollow in a tree. Then she does something extreme. Working entirely from the inside, she packs mud and feces into the entrance, walling herself in. She continues building this barricade until there is only a tiny, narrow vertical slit left open in the wood, barely wide enough to slip the tip of her beak through. For the entire incubation period, and until the chicks are large enough to leave, she is completely grounded inside this dark chamber. She and her unhatched chicks rely 100% on the male making continuous, daily food deliveries. It is a highly effective physical fortress against tree-climbing predators like snakes and monkeys. But this evolutionary defense creates a massive vulnerability. The survival of the entire family rests entirely on the male returning safely from his flights. Out in the open forest, a gunshot rings out. A poacher targets the foraging male, and in an instant, the bird is killed. Instantly, the intricate biological clockwork breaks down. The steady rhythm of fruit and insects brought back to the nest simply stops. Back at the hollow tree, the female sits in absolute quiet. She has no way of knowing what happened. She watches the fading daylight in that tiny slit, waiting patiently for a mate who is never coming back. Human hunting turns the hornbill's evolutionary defense into a trap. Without the male, that secure nursery immediately becomes an inescapable starvation chamber. There is a common misconception that the widowed female is physically trapped inside the tree. The reality is much harsher. She actually possesses the physical strength to break the mud seal from the inside. This chart shows the biological dilemma she faces. With the male killed, her logic tree branches into two distinct paths: stay in the nest and face certain starvation, or break the seal to save her own life. If she chooses to break out, the nest is instantly compromised. Tearing down the wall means exposing the unhatched eggs or young defenseless chicks to weather and forest predators, ensuring their death. She is forced into a grim evolutionary calculus. Weighing her own survival against the survival of her offspring means that saving her current life guarantees the destruction of the next generation. A poacher effectively ends the entire family line with a single shot. Regardless of the female's decision, the lineage terminates with her. If we zoom out from that single isolated tree to the broader macro population level, the sheer scale of this loss becomes clear. This visual shows the multiplier effect of a single poaching event. One dead male means a lost female and lost chicks, but it also creates a massive ecological void of thousands of seeds that will never be dispersed across the terrain. Over time, the physical structure of the forest begins to degrade. Massive canopy trees rely specifically on large birds to carry their heavy seeds. Without the hornbills, those specific tree species lose their ability to spread and reproduce. Eliminate enough hornbill families, and you trigger a slow, invisible collapse of the entire rainforest architecture. We have an urgent imperative to halt the cruelty of wildlife poaching before the great hornbill is pushed past the point of recovery. It requires raising societal awareness, actively protecting wild habitats, and demanding strict legal consequences. Because somewhere in the wild right now, as the daylight fades, a sealed nest sits perfectly untouched, waiting for a mate that will never return. Protecting these vulnerable creatures protects the complex web of life they maintain. It is the only way to ensure our ancient forests don't go permanently silent.